Together, we were talking about the future value formula. And if you guys recall, most of the questions that we had answered were fairly straightforward. And most of them were asking us to calculate the future value of an investment or a savings of some description, or a retirement annuity. So what we need to do today is stay with future value, but just look at some questions that are just a little bit more difficult. So each of these questions are based on future value. They're not necessarily difficult. There's just an extra thing that you need to be aware of, okay, in each particular case. All right, so the first one, let's dive straight in. The first one says, Irene deposits 1,700 Rand into a savings account. At the end of each month thereafter, she deposits 1,700 Rand into the account and continues to do this for 10 years. Interest is 8% per annum compounded monthly. Calculate the future value of her investment at the end of the 10-year period. That's not why we're doing the question. The reason that we are doing this question is because of what happens in part B. But in order to be able to answer part B, we've got to do part A. All right, so this 1,700 Rand, what does it represent in our formula? Is it our F, our X, our I, our N? What do you guys think? Indeed, it is our X. All right, so they're asking us to calculate the future value. So in this case over here, we can all do this together. When we calculate our future value, we've got 1,000, oh, how much was it? 1,700. Sorry, I don't know if it was 17 or 1,750. Okay, and then here 1 plus our interest rate in this case is 8% per annum compounded monthly. So that would be 0,08 over 12. And now we've got that same old problem where we need to work out what the value of N is. So she makes a deposit of 1,700. And then at the end of the month, for every month for 10 years, she continues to deposit 1,700 Rand. So how many deposits of 1,700 Rand do you think she's made here? What do you think? Matrix, you could pop your answer into the chat. I agree, Tsepiso. 121. So 10 times 12 plus 1, that extra one in the beginning. Yes, Timna, I agree. So it's going to be to the power of 121 minus 1, and then this is all going to be over I, which is 0,08 over 12. So fairly standard, ordinary sort of question, exactly what we were doing the last time. So we can pop that baby into our calculator and see what we get. You can tell me what your answer is, and I'll tell you mine. I agree, Vanti. I got exactly the same answer as you. Okay, so 314,000 Rand, 781 cents. Sorry, 781 Rand, and I got 65 cents. Yeah, 65 cents at the end. Good. Yes, lovely. Okay, now, as I had said, that's not the reason that we're doing this question, okay? Hopefully all of us by now understand this really well and are able to access this question fine. The reason we're doing this question is because of what happens in part B. So let's go and have a look at that. Irene leaves the accumulated amount in the account for a further 6 months without making any further payments of 1,700 Rand. If the interest rate changes to 10% per annum compounded half yearly, calculate the value of the investment after the further 6 months. Okay, so now what they are implying here is that she is now stopping her payments. Because she is stopping her regular payments, her monthly installments of 1,700 Rand, that means what for us, Matrix? What can we not do? If she stopped making these payments of 1,700 Rand, what does that mean for us in terms of formulae? Can anybody tell me? Or pop it into the chat. Yes, we have to stop using the future value formula, Vanti. That's quite right. 100%. Okay. No payments, no regular installments, no future value. So now we've got to use compound interest. Absolutely. So the best and most accurate way for us to answer this question, because of course we've rounded off in part A, is to now take our future value. So in other words, A equals, now our future value is going to become our P in the compound interest formula. Okay, so now we're going to replace P with 1700, whoopsie, 1 plus 0,08 over 12 to the power of 121 minus 1 all over 0,08 over 12. And we now need to multiply that by our new bracket, our new interest rate. So now our new interest rate, it has changed. It's no longer 8% per annum compounded monthly. It's 10% per annum compounded half yearly. So this is going to be 1 plus what? What's going to go inside here? There we go, Tsepiso, good job. So we're going to have 0,1 over 2. And now the big question, how do we know what the value of n is? What's the value of n in this case? What do you think? Okay, so Tsepiso says 6, Spoo says 1, Vanti says 1, and Cassandra says 2. Emihle says 1 over 2. Okay, so I'm going to ask you another question before we answer this question, all right? What does the letter N in compound interest represent? What does the letter N in the compound interest formula represent? Okay, so everybody is saying years, right? I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to make up an example, okay? So let's pretend that Neliswa has invested 1,000 Rand in a savings account, okay? And let's say that Neliswa gets 12%, no, let's not use 12%. Let's use 11% per annum, okay? And it is compounded monthly, right? And let's pretend that Neliswa leaves her money in this account for 2 years, right? So if we now wanted to work out how much money Neliswa had in 2 years' time, yeah, L'Oreal, you can ask your question in 2 seconds. I just want to do this, and then you can certainly ask away. We would do this, wouldn't we? We would say A equals, because there's no regular payments, okay? Neliswa's just put 1,000 Rand into an account, okay? So 1,000 Rand goes into the account. It grows at an interest rate of 11% per annum, compounded monthly. And then what do I do over here? I take my 12 and I times it by 2. So are there 24 years? Because the investment period was 2 years. Number of months. It's not payments. Okay, there's N, so we've got to be very, very careful of this. In fact, what no one has said so far, and this is actually the truth, N over here represents the number of times the interest is compounded during the period. Okay, that's what N actually represents. It is, I'm just going to write this down for you. It is the number of times the interest is compounded. Okay, because what I can do here is I can change my compounding period. Okay, so in other words, let's say I don't compound monthly. Let's say I compound quarterly. It's still not going to be the number of months, because now I'd end up with A equals 1,000. 1 plus 0,11 over 4. 4 times 2. There aren't 8 months in 2 years, are there? Okay, so N is not the number of months. It is not the number of years. It is not the number of payments. It is the number of times the interest is compounded in the period. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, it's the number of times the interest is compounded during the savings period. Okay. All right, so when we understand what N represents, only then can we begin to answer the question that I asked you, which was originally, what is the exponent on this bracket? Now, this is where we've got to be so careful. The money is left in the account for 6 months. It is compounded once every 6 months. So therefore, the exponent on this bracket has to be what? It has to be exactly, Kanisa. Exactly. Yes, Pilo. Okay, so the N in compound interest is the number of times the interest is compounded in the period. Okay, so in this particular case, because the interest is compounded once every half year, and it's been left in there for half a year or 6 months, the interest will be compounded once during that period of time. Okay. All right. So that's really, really, really important. Okay, that you understand that N in compound interest means something different to the N in future value or present value. Okay, so there was a question. Amanhle, that's what we were just discussing, where the 1 comes from. Remember, as I've just said, the value of N in the compound interest formula is the number of times that the interest is compounded in the period. So it says to us in this question that Irene leaves the money in the account for 6 months and that the interest rate is now compounded half yearly. Okay, so that means that it will be compounded once in that time. So that's why it's to the power of 1. And then you've obviously got to stick that into your calculator and work out the answer. All right, so you guys can share with me what you got. Yeah, I agree. I got the same thing. So 330, 520, 73. Good, well done. Okay, pleasure, Amanhle, no problem. Yes.
Could you also be able to use the answer that you got in A and as a P?
Yes, yes,
okay.
Yes, you can. But the problem is that you're only supposed to round off once at the very end. So what would happen is that if you use your answer from A, you've rounded off here. So what you could do is if you wrote down A and you didn't round off to 2 decimal places and you kept all your decimal places, you could use that number.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
so in other words, let's just pull it up again. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so when you get this answer in A, you get 314,781, comma 6482. So if you take that and you substitute it in here, then that's okay. All right, but you mustn't round off. Okay, so in other words, if you want to, you could have set it out like this. So in other words, 314,781, comma 6482, 1 plus 0, comma 1 over 6. Sorry, over 2, beg your pardon. Over 2 to the power of 1. You could do that as well. Okay. And then you would end up with that answer over there. Okay, everybody happy with that? Okay, so L'Oreal, a timeline is just there to help you visualize the problem. You can always use a timeline if you want to, but you're never going to get any marks for it. Okay, so the timeline is just there to help you understand the problem. You'll never ever get any marks for it. Okay, let's have a look at the next question, if that's all right with everybody. So in order to supplement his pension after retirement, Mpho, age 20, takes out a retirement annuity. He starts making monthly payments of 2,000 Rand into a fund, and the payments start immediately. The payments are made in advance. What does that mean? What do they mean when they say that payments are made in advance, as opposed to what we've just been doing, what we've just done over here? See here, Irene deposits 1,700 into a savings account at the end of each month thereafter. So here in question number 2, Irene is depositing the money at the end of the month. Here, Mpho is making his payments in advance. What does that mean? Yeah, so here, payments made in advance means Mpho is paying at the beginning of the month. Okay, yes, so in advance means he's paying earlier. All right, so he makes his payments at the beginning of the month and not at the end of the month. Okay, so totally different to Irene. The payments are made in advance, which means the last payment of 2,000 Rand is made 1 month before the annuity pays out. The interest rate for the annuity is 15% per annum compounded monthly. Calculate the future value of the annuity when he turns 60. Okay, so now if you want to, we can draw. Now, careful. 1 month extra. Vanti and Nicolita, we would think so. From what we've read here, absolutely we would think that, but it's actually not the case, all right? What's happening here, and this is where timelines are such an awesome thing to help us understand these problems, is remember when we say the payments start immediately, okay? The words payment start immediately doesn't necessarily mean that there's an extra payment. Payment start immediately means there's a payment at T0. Okay, so here at T0, he has made a payment of 2,000 Rand. Okay, And at T1 and at T2, he continues to make these payments. Okay. And he continues to do this for a period of how long? 40 years, isn't it? So he made his first payment at the beginning of T0. He made his second payment at the beginning of T1. He made his third payment at the beginning of T2. So when is he going to make his last payment? At T what? Let's see what you guys are saying. Okay, remember, he's investing the money when he's 20. He starts when he's 20 and he finishes when he's 60. So he's making these payments every month for a period of 40 years. Okay, but he's doing it every month. So he's not making 40 payments. Okay, he's doing it for 40 years. He's not making one payment a year. He's making 12 payments a year. Okay, so does that mean that his last payment takes place over here? Is that the last one time that he pays? Is it this one here? Yes or no? Oh, Leroy says no. Okay, so Kasani, if he doesn't make his last payment here, where does he make his last payment? When is his last payment made? At what? Ah, oh, someone's Pabalo. Yes, at 479. Yes, Kinsani. Yes, Sagwadi. Good. You guys are thinking. That's lovely. Good, good, good. He is not going to make his last payment at T480. Why not, Matrix? Why is he not making his last payment there? And instead, his last payment is made here. Okay, so ask yourself this, L'Oreal, all right? If you start making a payment at T0 and you finish at T479, how many payments have you made? Exactly, Yakuba, because he paid at T0. Quite right, Maya. All right, because he paid in advance. He started at the beginning of the month. All right, so he's made 480 payments. But because he starts at T0, he ends at T479. Now, what happens to his money while it is sitting in his account for this period of time? Okay, what happens to his money for that extra month? Okay, you see where the advance comes in now, okay, Nicolita? The money grows, absolutely it does. Using what formula, Maya? Yes, Kinsani, it increases. What formula are we going to use? Future value. Okay, to calculate the beginning, but yes, but at the end, it's going to have to grow by compound interest. Okay, so what we're going to get, let's just see what you guys are saying in the chat. Yes, so first future value, yes, Neosibeko, quite right. Future value and then compound interest. Yes, Maya, compound interest at the end. So when there are regular payments being made, when there are installments being made, it's going to grow by future value. As soon as that stops and the money's left in the account, it grows according to compound interest. Good, guys. This is lovely. You're doing so well. I'm so pleased. Okay, some really, really good answers coming through. Very thoughtful work. Okay, I'm super impressed. All right, so the future value of, and pause, and you're going to see here the value of starting to save early for your retirement matrix. You're going to see how much money Paul has by the time he turns 60. He's going to have a nice retirement. Okay, so 2,000 Rand a month. That's his X value, isn't it? 1 plus his rate is 15% per annum. Okay, that is a very nice interest rate. I don't think any of us would get that, but anyway, compounded monthly. And we said here that Paul makes 480 payments minus 1 over 0.15 over 12. And now his money has to grow for the last month. So we're going to multiply that by our new bracket. His interest rate stays the same, compounded monthly. And again, his money is going to be in the account for 1 month, compounded monthly. So the exponent here is going to be to the power of 1. No, Nicolita. Remember, he starts at T0. He finishes at T479. He makes 480 payments. Okay. Yeah, so it's not just, you mean for...
Oh, sorry, that was directed to somebody. Sorry.
Sorry. No. Pelesa, so N needs to be equal to 1 because it says here that he makes his payments at the beginning of every month. And that calculate the, okay, so, and his last, the last payment of 2,000 Rand is made 1 month before the annuity pays out. Okay, so that was him here. That's him making this last payment of 2,000 Rand 1 month before the annuity pays out. Okay, so that means that it stayed in his account and it earned interest for that 1 month. Okay, because interest was compounded monthly. So remember again, the 1 on the compound interest represents the number of times the interest was compounded in the period. So if interest is compounded monthly and it's left in the account for 1 month, then the value of N is 1. Ew, that's a lot of money, isn't it? Hey? R62 million, 807,510. You know, I think I'd like to marry him, Paul. He's got that much money. Hey, Neliswa?
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, I could think of lots of creative ways to help him, Paul, spend that 62 million. I don't know about you, but
yeah, it's basically like 63 million.
Exactly. I'd be only too happy to stand in and assist. Oh goodness. Right. Kanisa says same. Absolutely.
What would you do though? They say you came across this amount of money. What would you do? Would you take it to the police or would you just take it for yourself?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Yeah, monthly, I'd also have a hard time handing it out.
Go to Dubai. Because I was talking to my colleagues at work about how we're doing financial maths, and how like when you're saving, you could be able to make this amount of money. I'm like, which company will offer me this interest rate?
Yes.
Like let's say 15% interest rate compounded monthly. Which company will be able to?
Yeah, no, you would never get 15%. I mean, that's completely unrealistic as well. But, you know,
Yeah. It would be nice though.
Dylan says he would definitely avoid women. Yeah, Dylan, they'll spend that money for you. Chop, chop.
Now, women help you to spend money because maybe you don't know how to spend money, and then women will help you.
Definitely. Oh goodness. Anyway, so yeah, good life lesson in this. Start saving early for your retirement, because you can see how much money can be made. Okay, cool. Well, that was a nice question for us to do, and at least a bit of a laugh at the end as well. Okay, so let's go on and have a look at another. We might come back to this one because I do want to show you this, but I want to do this first. Okay. So here it says to us 500 Rand is invested each month, starting in 1 month's time, into an account paying 16% per annum, compounded monthly. The fund accumulates to 10,000 Rand. How many payments? Yes, sorry, is there a question?
Yes, ma'am. Nicolette is asking whether they can do the question themselves.
This one themselves? Yes, with pleasure. If you want to do question 5 on your own, absolutely. I'm more than happy to be quiet. Okay, so let me just go and grab the formula for you. If you let's just get that. Sorry, I should have thought about that earlier. Okay, there we go. All right. So there's your formula. If you guys want to try this on your own, I have no problem with that. Go for it. And of course, Naliswa and I are here if you do want to ask any questions.
Okay.
You're only calculating the number of payments. Okay. That's not the... So I see Rachel and L'Oreal and Leroy have put up an answer. That's not what I got, but I'm not saying I'm right, but that's not what I got. I think there's something... 2 payments, Kintani. I didn't get that either, I'm afraid. Spoo, my answer was the closest to yours. Okay. I'm seriously impressed, you guys. Well done. Yeah, so Itumeleng, Timna, that's what I got. Yeah, that's what I got too, Spoo. So I got exactly the same thing. Okay, good. Well done. I'm so impressed, guys. That's great. So this is how I answered the question. Now that you're all putting answers up, I'll just slowly work through my own. So using the future value formula, because because it is a savings. So the future value is 10,000 Rand. And, oh, whoopsie. That. And 500 Rand is invested each month. 1 plus our interest rate is 0.16 divided by 12. N is what we want to calculate, minus 1. And that's got to be all over 0.16 divided by 12. So what we would end up doing here, Matrix, is we would end up cross-multiplying and then dividing by 500. I just want to see, you've got a few comments here in the chat. I'll just read those before I carry on. Oh, you're still trying? Okay, all right. Inam, I'm sorry, I'll stop. Let me see if I can find another question for the fast finishers to do. Okay, so fast finishers, you guys do this one while the others are still busy with question number. Okay. Fast finishers, you do number 7 while everybody else is still busy with number 5. Sorry, Anam. Rachel, we'll talk about it now. I'm just going to let everybody who hasn't had a chance to finish that question finish it. But don't stress. Maybe if you are finished, try number 7 as well. Okay. Pumzile, it's the same formula. So this one over here that I'm busy jumping up and down. Yakupa, is that your answer for number 5 or number 7? Okay, so Yakupa, you've said 12,829 Rand, but the question was how many payments of 2,000 Rand will be made. So your answer doesn't doesn't match the question. Okay, you've said 7. Okay. That's not what I got for that question, but no, don't worry, it's no problem. Okay, so Sprue, you got 20.91. Maya, you said you got 19. 20. Is that for Maya? Is that for question number 7? Maya, is that question 7? Okay, but why are you crying? Why are you crying, Maya? I'm gonna show you my answer now. Are you crying because of question 5? Okay. All right. Inam, are you finished with question 5? Okay. All right. So I tell you what, let's go through. All right. Don't stress. Kelebohile, don't stress. Even if you didn't get the right answer, it's not the end of the world. We're going to go through it right now. Okay. So, is it okay if I go through question 5 with you guys? And then we can talk about how question 7 is just a little bit different. Okay, all right. So what I'm going to do, cool beans. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this out the way because we need space to write. Okay. Yeah, maybe there's two, maybe there's 2 Mayas here. I don't know, but there was someone who was Maya who was crying. maybe there are 2 of you. Okay, so the whole idea here is we need to solve for n, and we're going to solve for n using logs. Okay, so that means that we need to isolate our base, okay, because when we want to solve for logs, what we are doing is we are, let's just write it on the side here, n equals log base number. Okay, now that formula is not on our formula sheet. We have to know that off by heart. That's how we're going to solve using logs. So what I was trying to say earlier was that we are now going to multiply that and this. We're going to cross multiply, and then we're going to divide by the 500. So on your calculator, you would have said 10,000 times 0.16 over 12, and now you're going to divide that by 500. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I get 4 over 15 as my answer. And tell me if you agree with that. Is equal to 16 over 12 to the power of n minus 1. So now, let's just see what you guys are saying in the chat. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So now we're going to take this minus 1 over to the other side, right? So we're going to plus 1 on both sides. This guy is going to go over here. So that means we've now got, where's my blue pen? There it is. That would be 19 over 15, agreed? And then I'm just going to work out one. Yeah, 19 over 15 is correct. And I'm just going to work out what 1 plus 0.16 over 12, oh, 42 over 12 is, okay, so okay, we don't want to lie. So we want to leave it as an improper fraction because we don't want to round that off. So I'm going to leave this as 76 over 75 to the power of n. Okay, and now I'm going to use what I wrote in green here. So n equals log base, 76 over 75 is my base, and my number here is 19 over 15. All right, and then we're going to use that button in the top right-hand corner of our calculators. And yeah, I get, and I hope you guys do too, 17,84709 blah 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 blah. Okay, so most of the time when they ask us to calculate n, it's fine for us to leave it rounded to 2 decimal places. Okay. Is everybody happy with that? Cool. I'm so glad, Andiswa. So Kanisa, again, I'm so glad you asked that. It's a really good question. Why are we not multiplying n by the compounding period? Okay, so this is where we've got to be so clear on our formulae, Kanisa. When we are working with future value, what does the letter n represent? The number of payments. When we are working with compound interest, what does n represent? The number of times the interest is compounded in the period. Okay, so n in future value and n in compound interest do not mean the same thing. Okay, I hope that helps. Yes, we're going to do another one, Pumzile. We will. We're going to do the next question. So were you wrong? No, you can log both sides, Nicolita. You can do it by logging both sides if you want to. Okay, Sasunda, how did we get the 19 over 15? All right, so Sasunda, what I did, so to get the 4 over 15, Sasunda, we said 10,000 times 0.16 over 12 divided by 500. And then to get the 19 over 15, we took the 1 over to the other side. So it was 4 over 15 plus 1. That's where the 19 over 15 comes from. Okay. Yes, exactly. Okay, L'Oreal, you mixed, okay, future value method with your present value, absolutely. Okay, let's see what the next. Okay, it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. So yes, if you want to, if your teachers have taught you to log both sides, you can do it that way if you want to. I never teach the logging both sides method. I just always teach what's in green here, because in my opinion, that's easier, but it's completely up to you if you want to do logging of both sides. Okay, all right, so hopefully everybody's happy with that. Inam, is that making sense? I think you had your hand up earlier and I missed your hand. Sure, Inam, do you want to say something?
Well, it was the same question that somebody else just had about the not multiplying the n.
Okay.
Because my teacher taught us to say, after getting the 17, that means 17 years. Then we take the 8,7 that follows after and then say 0,84709. and then multiply it by 12, then whatever we get, then it's like, if maybe let's say it was 8 after that, then we're going to say 17 years and 8 months. So
Okay, but, hang on a second, okay? If they asked you for number of years or number of months, then that is 100% accurate. I quite agree with you. But what did the question say? The question said, how many payments of 500 Rand will be made? Okay, it didn't ask you for time. Okay, it asked you for the number of payments. Okay, so yes, if they say to you, for how long are these payments going to be made, then I quite agree with your teacher. You can do that, and then you can get your answer in years and months or whatever the question is. But here the question was, how many payments of 500 Rand are going to be made? Okay, so it wouldn't be appropriate for us to do that in this case. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Anam. Right. Yes, Amanhle, we will do trigonometry again, and we will do trigonometry when we start doing revision. Okay. All right. Let's quickly see if we can do this question before you guys go. Because there's a little trick to this one, and it's just interesting for me. I think some of us realized it, but maybe some of us didn't. Okay. So 2,000 Rand is immediately deposited into a savings account. 6 months later, and every 6 months thereafter, 2,000 Rand is deposited into the account. The interest rate is 16% per annum compounded half yearly. The future value of the savings is 100,000 Rand. How many payments of 2,000 will be made? Okay, so our future value is 100,000 Rand. We are paying, or someone is paying, 2,000 Rand a month. The interest rate is 16% per annum compounded half yearly. And now, because they have deposited that money immediately, and 6 months later and every 6 months thereafter, they are depositing 2,000 Rand, there is going to be this N plus 1 in this case. So there is going to be an extra payment. Okay, so did you get that? So I think some of you would have realized that. No, in AM we haven't done probability. We're going to do it next. Okay. So then again, guys, what we want to try and do is isolate our base. So we would have cross multiplied 100,000 with 0.16 over 2. We would have divided both sides by 2,000, and then we would have added 1. I don't know about you guys, but I get an answer of 5. This is now after I've added the 1. And then here, this is going to be 1 plus 0.16 over 2. Oh, no, that's times. That's not right. So I was looking at it. Now plus, that's better. So here I get a base of 27 over 25, and n equals log base number. Oh, sorry, and it's not n, sorry, it's n plus 1. Sorry. Okay. All right, y'all, please do answer the poll if you've got 2 seconds. You've got 8, not 5. Okay, so Oratile, where did we get the 5 from? So we get the 5 from saying 100,000 times 0.16 over 2 is 8,000. Now 8,000 divided by 2,000 is 4. And then I've taken the 1 over to the other side, so plus 1. Okay, that's where we get the 5 from. Exactly, Nicolita.